delegates from Western world, in Abuja in solidarity for nnamdikanu. How would you react to that? Today, he is appearing in court. As you can see in this video, nnamdikanu looks like he is ready for freedom.
I think by now it should be clear to Nigerian sovereign states that nnamdikanu is an international diplomat. Of course, we have seen his influence at the international level. Don't forget that UN Working Group on Arbitral Intervention spoke to Nigeria directly, secret to nnamdikanu case, where they acknowledged the Nigerian government to release him conditionally. That did not come until after the Appeal Court in Nigeria ruled that nnamdikanu was extraordinary rendition for Kenya to Nigeria. So by now, I think it is becoming very clear to the Nigerian government that they are dealing with a world diplomat. With the other time, we saw even the foreign affairs minister from Russia speaking to Nigeria directly, speaking to the world, countries of the world, speaking to UN, European Union, that going forward that they should continue to respect self-determination. Of course, we understand that self-determination is a right. It's a UN charter that been ratified in Nigeria. To that extent, it's already a law in Nigerian legal jurisprudence. So when you are dealing with somebody from that perspective, I think it calls for circumspect on the part of the Nigerian government. I think that best explain the reason the Nigerian government want to do the right thing. Don't forget that the man in the California have made it very clear that he's ready to remain in detention until there's an impartial judge to adjudicate his case with federal government. And good thing, we already seen testimony from the prosecuting agency talking about DSS coming out clearly to say that yes, upon his arrest in Lagos in a hotel, we did not find any weapon of terrorism on him. I think that is a good one. We take it up from there, though they are still calling their witnesses. I understand that after they finish calling their witnesses, they will ask his nnamdikanu defense counsel to open his case. Of course, we take it up from there. Don't forget that nnamdikanu have an eye in Trump's government. Talking about the chief of staff to Donald Trump, of course, is a file who was at the time nnamdikanu was agitating a lobbyist of nnamdikanu. Okay, lobbies of Biafra. Okay. That even as at that time, we already had an office of Biafra in Washington, D.C., courtesy of nnamdikanu's strategy.
Okay, is it this lack of evidence tendered in the court that triggered diplomats from Israel, from America, from Norway, and we are seeing more also coming from Russia on this regard in solidarity of nnamdikanu? Is it that there was no criminal thing found in nnamdikanu that made these diplomats, world diplomats, to identify with nnamdikanu now?
I think there are many angles to it. Because the way it is, the world by now know what nnamdikanu stands for. It's someone that stands for justice, equity, and fairness. It's someone that stands for the liberation of his people. It's someone that is saying, I want the sovereign state of Biafra to referendum. Of course, that is acceptable by all standards globally. We saw what happened in UK, where the people said they wanted to exit the European Union. Of course, some people were against, some people were in support of it. But at the end of the day, because it was a right of the people, it was achieved. I think the world have said that, yes, this man stands for justice, equity, and fairness. That's why they stand by him. Don't forget that, as we speak, the whole world is watching what is happening in Nigeria, courtesy of the president of nnamdikanu himself, because he's somebody that proven that, time and again, that he is not ready to submit or surrender to impunity or intimidation. And of course, I think that we have endeared him into the heart of world bodies like UN, European Union, and even world leaders, that he's now a talk of the day, a talk of the town globally.
Can this now lead to a global support for disintegration of Nigeria, giving diplomats from all over the world, showing solidarity to nnamdikanu?
There are so many angles to disintegration of Nigeria. There's nothing sacrosanct about Nigeria. I've been saying it and I'll continue to say it because God by providence did not create Nigeria one. The Igbos have their different identity, the Yoruba have their own different identity, the Hausa have their own. And there are what they call natural unifying factors. For instance, the language. God in his wisdom gave Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa different languages. It's going to show that by providence God created different people. So by the time you see people coming together through amalgamation that is compared on the people, the people were coerced without their consent. So if people now realize and rise and say, okay, let's go our separate ways, go our separate ways, through rightful channels, through legal channels, like Nnamdi Kanu is doing. I think there's nothing wrong in it. I even want to encourage the government, because if you continue seeing people saying we want to succeed, and the call is unrelenting, it's becoming louder in spite of intimidation and all that. So I think it points to one thing, that the government of the day should create an avenue to carry out referendum. Who said the government cannot go to the southeast, the Biafra side of the country, and command the opinion of why people should not succeed? Let us see whether they will win. I think that's the best way to go, instead of using handling, intimidation, arresting, prosecution to stop people from carrying out what is their right naturally. Because both locally and internationally, self-examination is a right. That is why if you go to all the charges against Northern Africa, you don't say anything that has to do with self-examination, because the government knows that it's a right.
Okay, today, the persecution and, of course, trial continue, like we are seeing on this video. What are we expecting? When are you looking at that Nnamdi Kanu should be free? Because it looks like the judge himself, James Omotoso, seems to be tired of the matter. He's just taking his time to a point where he will finally decide.
I think we are not going to prejudice the outcome of the case, but understand that the court process in Nigeria is after the prosecution have closed their case, the defense counsel will have to open their case. They can decide to go for no case submission, a situation where they will ask the court that the man have not committed any offense, that he doesn't have case to answer. The judge will have to rule on that first, whether he will rule on the basis of no case submission, or he will ask the accused to open his defense. In the event that he asks the accused to open his defense, Nnamdi Kanu will open his defense and start calling his own witnesses. Then after calling the witnesses, the court will ask the two parties, their lawyer, to address the court. After the address, it's either the judge will give judgment that day, or ask the parties to come back for a day that will be stated for judgment.
Okay, as it stands now, the diplomats seems to be holding a brief meeting, about the issue of Biafra, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Looking at what happened in recently, where Mazi Nnamdi Kanu met with Eastern governors, before now. What are they trying to do at this point in time? Because we have seen most of them going to church to ask for forgiveness, and of course, they have automatically become a pastor ahead of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's release. Is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's release going to trigger another direction politically in the entire eastern part of the country?
To be quite honest, Nnamdi Kanu release is going to change the dynamics of politics in Nigeria, not just the South Africa. There's no doubt about that. And again, Nnamdi Kanu is a big fish. Anybody wants to identify with. So it's not surprising if you could see Southeastern governors trying to see how they could reach out to him as a way of familiarizing themselves with him. And not that they don't know him, that is a man that comes from Afaruku. That is not the point. But knowing somebody coming from Afaruku is different from having an intimate relationship with him and believing in what he stands for. So seeing that Nnamdi Kanu have been proven over and again to be an international figure, the world bodies, world leaders already recognize him. So they have, of course, I think they want to quickly fuse in and not to be left behind. But however I look at it, I think that the Kanu profile continue to rise day by day.
The Fulanis of the North finally said that do not release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. If you release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, then the Fulanis are not going to be physically present in Nigeria anymore. That Mazi Nnamdi Kanu influences over 200 million people, and with his release, the Fulani is gone. Fulani will be on the run in Nigeria. How did they arrive at this conclusion?
I must say that the Fulani does not have what it takes to actually threaten the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu.
But they supported Bola Ahmed Tinubu. They might be Bola Ahmed Tinubu president.
I don't think the government should listen to the Fulani, because the Fulani, particularly the Fulani military of Nigerian extraction, have done more harm to Nigeria than any other individual, than any other group in Nigeria, to the extent that the Fulani military of Nigerian extraction have been named fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. So driving from that, who are they to talk about a man who, of course, the whole world knows what he stands for? Don't forget that even as the world, sorry, don't forget that even as Nigeria government designate IPOB as a terrorist organization, the IPOB members still went to Finland in 2004, in Latin Finland, under the watchful eye of international media, to declare Biafra. Nobody was handled at that level, nobody was arrested, nobody was intimidated. It's going to show you that the world knows what they stand for. So back here in Nigeria, who is Fulani to start questioning the reach of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? We have seen how the government of Nigeria will abuse the power to even release Boko Haram terrorists who they claim have come to surrender to the government. And these are people who, somebody who should know better, have said that there's nothing that reported bandits. I'm talking about Mala Arufai, the former governor of Kanu State, who is on camera, who have been captured on clips, saying that the bandit do not repent, that the only repentant bandit is the dead one, that his own ideology is to send them to their creator, who ultimately have the power to judge them. And in this regard, we have a handful of Fulani militia who are the banditry in Nigeria. Can we quickly forget the lives of Tony Bello, who of course his terror is still very prominent in Zamfara and some other part of the country? So for me, the federal government should not even think of Fulani militia when it comes to Fulani ethnic extraction. When they give advice, they get the use of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is a freedom fighter.
Finally, on this matter, what is your message? What do you want to tell Mazi Nnamdi Kanu at this point in time that he is, for the first time, facing trial?
I think I'll tell him to be steadfast, to be resolute. I know he has been up to that, but he should still persevere, because hopefully, by the grace of God, there will be light at the end of the tunnel. His lawyer has made it very clear that they have to prove the innocence